So no title, but kind of a love affair, yes. And names have been changed to protect the innocent. Yeah.
And the guilty.
And the guilty, yes, and the guilty. Okay, so I was on a date with somebody that I had kind of known in a previous life, and I'd always thought he was extremely good looking, and ended up going on this date with him at a time when we'd both been divorced for years. Bumped into him somewhere. We end up on a date on the beach anyway, and I know him as Paul, and I think I'm with Paul, an Englishman called Paul. Okay, so we're both Anglophones. He's kind of Cockney, Essex sort of accent though, and it's a shame I can't do a Cockney accent or an Essex accent because the story would be so much better, but sorry, I can't do it. I might have a go in places. So we had our beach date and we were up near Sangyamna Desert, and afterwards we decided to go and have a crepe in Sangyamna Desert, and we sat outside a cafe there. And, you know, really, I'd never known him very well, so I'm just getting to know him. And I said, you know, what do you do for a living? And he said, I'm a woodworker. Well, you know, technically I'm a cabinet maker, but I do everything with wood. I love wood. And what do you do? And I said, well, I'm a writer, and right now I'm teaching creative writing workshops. That's how I spend most of my time, teaching these workshops. And he said, well, I've not really read many books, and I don't know anything about that. So what do you do in a creative writing workshop? And I said, well, today, for example, we looked at the story of our names, because I believe there is a story attached to everybody's name. And I gave him a couple of examples, stories that we told in the workshop about our names, these stories that we had found simply by saying our names. And he said, my name is Paul Spitek Lewankowski. And I was like, wow, is it really? Oh my God, that is so exciting. So he told me then the story of his name, and I fell in love with this man, and it was more than a love affair between me and him. It was a love affair between wood and words, I would say, because as we went along, we found more and more parallels between my work and his work, and to me it was like a breath of fresh air, like a revelation. He'd always come at things from such a different angle, because he wasn't somebody who was terribly well educated or well read, so it was new the way that he saw things, but he was so quick and sharp and intelligent and clever and funny, and we could both see the parallels. It was the creative process, basically, that we were talking about all the time. His creative process when he made something out of wood, and mine with the writing. So this was quite a big deal between us. And then I'd come back from a workshop and he'd say, oh, what did you do today? You know, and I'd say, oh, well, you know, today we focused on sound. And then the two of us would kind of lie in a field, you know, and listen to different sounds and try and do a little bit of what I did in the workshop, describing sounds. We covered alliteration and various literary devices. And of course, this was all completely new to him. He'd never done this at school or experienced it or really read books. And I just loved the way he was with wood, his passion for wood, the way that he would run his hand over a piece of wood, really any piece of wood, and it was just so sensual. He was absolutely in love with wood and passionate about his work. and I really liked that. So he was kind of trying all the time to sort of listen and be involved. I remember I went to try and get a job, like a proper job, as an estate agent. I desperately needed more money than I was making, and I came back. I hadn't got the job because I didn't speak French well enough at the time, so I didn't get the job. And he said, babe, you're not meant to be the one that's selling houses. You're supposed to be describing the insides of mussel shells. You know, and he'd say wonderful things like this to me. And of course I thought, yes, you're right. I'm going to keep describing the insides of mussel shells. And so at some point I'd come back from a workshop and I was talking about metaphor, and he said, well, you know, what is metaphor? And I tried to explain, and I mean, he really had no idea what metaphor was. And I said something like, well, you know, if you say Juliet is like the sun, then that's a simile, you know, but if you say Juliet is the sun, then that's a metaphor. Okay. And so then he was kind of trying, so I walked in his workshop one day and he was like, this wood, this silky wood, metaphor? And I was like, no, no, that's not metaphor, sorry, you know, and he was having lots of little goes at making some kind of metaphor. I think the mussel shells, yeah, he probably said to me, is that a metaphor? No, you know, that's not a metaphor. So during this phase somewhere, I have a very, very difficult relationship with my parents, and particularly with my mum. And I have worked for years and years to try and make a peaceful relationship, if not a deep relationship, at least a peaceful relationship. I had invited my parents to France, and they'd finally decided that they were going to come. So I can't overstate how rare and important it was, this visit. My parents are coming to France, so they're going to meet Paul while they're here, obviously, and we'll take them around and try and give them a nice time. So my mum had obviously been thinking along the same lines, because they arrived, and my mother, who had recently been doing glass work for the first time, had made me this beautiful glass pendant in my favourite colours, turquoise and purple. And she presented it to me and said, you know, I made this for you. And I was really, really touched, and so very, very pleased to have it. And I put it on immediately, and I wore it. We went bowling with them, and we did have a lovely day. And I wore this beautiful pendant. At the end of the day, Boris and me went back to my place. My parents were staying in a hotel, and I was in the bathroom admiring this pendant, you see, in the mirror, and it was on one of those sort of steel sort of circular things like that, a bit kind of rigid, you know. And I thought, I might like to put it on a gold chain, you know, and I've got a gold chain, and I'll just have a look and see what it looks like if I put it onto a gold chain. So I've taken it off the thing, and I've put it on the gold chain, and I'm saying, oh, you know, what do you think? How does that look on a gold chain? I was just holding it like that to look at, and then I took it away from round my neck, and somehow I let go of one end of it. It slipped off the gold chain, and it smashed into a million pieces all over the floor. And Paul said, "Babe, it's a metaphor."